So like a good detective, you have to ask the right questions. Okay? You need to go back and start at the beginning and take a look at the proton, which is basically a hydrogen atom. This is the smallest thing in existence right here. You got to understand these up quarks, down quarks, gluons, all this stuff right here. This is where it breaks down, guys. I wanted to get into this and show you. Okay, you got to ask yourself, where is the energy coming from? You know, it has to come from somewhere. As you all know, it just changes forms and from one type to the next. So the energy has to come from somewhere. I have tracked everything back down to this 0 point right here. I'm going to show you guys this. Let me take a look here. Let me show you here this atom. Okay, so if you take a look at the hydrogen atom here in its atomic state, and you have this electron scooting back and forth, creating these photons as that movement goes back and forth, as it jumps from levels. Okay, just like you have more energy upstairs. An electron has more energy upstairs, up here. Okay, you carry that with you. See, it's in indivisible packets, and you can't really see that in an atom because you can't really see it. These electron orbitals. This is just a 2D depiction of what's going on there. Okay, so I've tracked everything back down to this 0 point. Right here, the proton. This is where all my physics and science and knowledge of the water molecule and the oxygen atom and the hydrogen atom break down. Okay, everything breaks down to this one place right here, the proton. That's where it gets confusing. Deep inside the atom, there's gluons, quarks, you know, energy pathways, some type of energy aperture. This is a one-way diode mechanism. It acts like a valve. Okay, it releases energy. You know, an atom can never lose all of its energy. Even the coldest water puddle out on the street, the atoms are moving around. They can never lose all their energy. That energy has to come from somewhere. I've asked myself many times, you know, the further I look at these symbols, the further I look into quantum mechanics and chromodynamics and all this stuff that has to do with quarks, protons, and electrons. It's really complicated stuff. Ernest Rutherford was the first one to get into a lot of this, okay? This is where it all heads. So like a good detective, you gotta follow things all the way back. Where's the energy coming from? That's where I ask myself. It's deep inside the proton is where all this is allowed to happen. You know, this is the study of the beginning. The very beginning. So I'm really trying to show this to you guys to make the connection between the hydrogen atom and the genesis and the tetrahedrons that you're seeing and the water molecules tetrahedron pyramid structure. Okay? This is all very important. I mean, it's crucial. This is about who you are, where you came from, where we're going. I mean, come on guys, I'm trying to put all this together so you can see this. If you take a tetrahedron and you put it inside of a planet or a circle, you're going to get 19.5 degrees is where the base is going to be. I'm going to show you why that's important. Because on all the other planets at 19.5 degrees you're going to find something. If you go to Mars on Olympus Mons, that's where that giant volcano is sitting, right at 19.5 degrees latitude. The tetrahedron again. Okay, the Great Red Spot on Jupiter, it's at 19.5 degrees latitude. That's some kind of interdimensional energy source. That's not a storm. I mean, you can't believe everything you've heard in science and physics. I mean, you got to come up with some of your own stuff. If you go to giant volcanoes in Hawaii, they're also located at 19.5 degrees latitude. And there's another genius on here online that handles all this, and his name's Carl Monk. He doesn't look into the atomic state of the water molecule and the tetrahedron society like I do, but he also looks into the mathematics. You know, there's a lot of math there. You guys need to go take a look at that. Here, I'm going to edit this and add it to it. But that's where this tetrahedron's coming from. See, water's essential to life and to creation. It's all connected. It's amazing how connected it all really is. You know, we're just learning these energy sources and the pyramid matrix that was made here on Earth. It shows you how to tap into these energies. It shows you the location of where the water's at, too. Yeah, the hydrogen atom is the smallest thing in existence. You know, it just has this electron scooting around that one proton. So not only is it the most abundant thing in the galaxy, it's also the thinnest and the lightest. You can fly with this atom. That's how the Hindenburg was able to fly. But anyways, what I wanted to show you in here, if you take a look in here in Samuel 17 in the Bible, it tells you a lot about David defeating Goliath. You know, it has a lot of in there about using a stone to do it. And every time I read this, I think about my pulsar reactor. Every time I go through here and read that, you know, the Lord has blessed me with an electrical power generator that has no drive shaft, no bearing, no moving parts. Think about that. Sounds familiar, huh? This is the photoelectric universal luminous solar atomic reactor. You have to watch my video on the pulsar reactor. So you can get an endless stream of electrons from water. An endless stream of electricity. Okay? An endless stream of electricity to perform your electrolysis. You can get that from the water. But every time I read this part in the Bible, I think about the pulsar. You know, some of my inventions, you know, it just goes hand in hand. So here's another really important part that has to do with electrolysis in the Bible. And if you look in here at Job 38, Stanley Myers mentioned this. And if you come down to man's limited knowledge, you'll look in here and it clearly tells you about the treasures hidden within the snow and the hail. You know, it tells you about the times of great trouble that man's gotten himself into. It tells you about dividing waters and the lightning and thunder. It tells you about flashbacks. I mean, it tells you about all kinds of stuff in here. It's amazing. But what the most important part is, it tells you about the limelight reactors in here. The waters are hid as with a stone, and the face upon the deep is frozen. And it tells you about the light and a couple other things in here. But what's really important is 31. This verse right here. Canst thou bind the sweet influences of Pleiades, or loose the bands of Orion? Okay, and if you've ever followed Wayne Herschel's theory, and you understand where these pyramids and how they're built over in Egypt, they actually point to Orion's belt. Okay? They point to Orion's belt. These are star constellations. So they talk about the back of the bull and the Pleiades star system. Right there in the Bible. You can't miss it. And if you understand what's at the leg of the bull, in Egypt they have this all over the walls, and they're clearly pointing out, you know, directions. These are interstellar directions to the Pleiades. You know, that's the Big Dipper, the leg of the bull. You know, they built these pyramids on the ground like that, and that's what's there, a giant hydrogen garden of stars. Okay, it's a young nursery, and it's gas clouds of hydrogen that stretch for kilometers. That's what's there. That's what's in the Pleiades star system, an enormous amount of hydrogen. It's a star nursery. So I just wanted to point this out. You know, they have a lot of star gods and stargates and pointing this out and giving you directions how to get there. You know, the leg of the bull, follow the two stars. You know, the place of three suns. So we don't have three stars here in our galaxy, in our solar system. So you have to think about that. The back of the bull, the Pleiades, all that, hydrogen. I mean, it's tied right in there to this stuff in the Bible. You know, you can't miss it. Electrolysis in the Bible, flashbacks, hydrogen in the galaxy. You can't miss it. Pyramids built facing Orion's belt. You know, chasing the energy back to the beginning, you know, to the start, where it all comes from. In the Bible, it clearly says that the light energy comes in from the third dimension to us from the throne of God day and night. It's in here. As it vortexes, the light energy comes in. It has a native intelligence as photon energy. It's polarized and can create electrons that can then produce protons that then produce molecules that perform chemical processes, and these processes sustain life, and it all comes from here. I know it's complicated, but it wasn't meant to be easy. And I imagine the builders and the people that invented, or the aliens, or whoever created all this, I imagine there's directions. These are directions. Because the ancient builders knew math at least half as good as we did. Every time I look at this, I go, you know, these must be coordinates, directions. You know, the radius of the proton itself. But to where? That's half the mystery. So that's how all that comes in to sustain life. All from a hydrogen atom. All of existence. So you never want to underestimate the power of water. If you build against water, if you try to work against water or live against it, it's going to win you over every time. Okay? Never underestimate the power of water. Look at what happened in Fukushima. I mean, look at what floodwaters can do. Nothing stands up against the water. It's one of the most destructive forces in nature. Just wanted to throw that in there. If you try to build against the water or work against it, you're going to lose every time. So oil's just not going to win. You're going to have to learn to live with the water using hydrogen. You know, all this is energy coming in right here. If you look at it that way, it's not so bad. You know, so you may be asking yourself how man found himself in this horrible position like this. We don't have water as fuel. And when I come in here and look in the Bible, and I think about the flood in Genesis, in Noah's time, you know, water was used to destroy the planet. Every living thing was destroyed. Every living substance was destroyed which was upon the face of the ground. Both man and cattle. So you gotta remember, water was also one of the most destructive things on this planet. It was a long time before there was dry land again. You know, so the earth was destroyed by water. God saw the wickedness in man and used it to destroy man's evil ways. Think about that. That's all in the Bible. That's another thing when I think about electrolysis. Some of the things going on. Something else to think about. So you can clearly see here that God gave man, you know, gave David the tools that he needed. He gave him the rocks. You know, he gave him all the gear he needed to beat the Goliath. So you're going to think about that. It was beaten with a rock. Nothing to it. So you got to have the tools. The tools. So you can see these connections are galactic. You know, the tetrahedron is the primal state of matter. That's the shape and the form of everything. And the water molecule, that's essential to life. You can't have life without water as far as we know it. It's essential. So I hope you make this connection. Yeah, I know, it gets a little complicated. It's not what you thought it was.